So if you're listening to this, that means you've had a week's gap from episode 1, part 1. Which means that you've had a week where you've been wondering what on earth was going to be said next in the next pieces. Wondering what other nuggets of information were coming from my guest. And you've had a week where you haven't been able to apply those nuggets because you didn't know they existed or what they were. Which is a little bit frustrating, really. Because imagine how much more efficient, productive, or amazing you could have been. But you know there's a way around it. You know that you can pop along to Patreon, www.patreon.com/SundayLunchPM, or to Spotify, have a look at the feed, and there's a little lock. Click on the lock and it'll ask you to pay. It's the price of a coffee. That's it. A month. And you'll get everything a week early. And you won't have bits like this in it with me wittering on about becoming a patron and things like that. So, have a think. And anyway, I'll shut up now because you're probably thinking, just get on with it, Nige. So yeah, here's the second part of the show. So I have a number of sponsors, affiliate links in the way that it's set up that have kindly allowed me to share their services, really. The first one is Mike Lane, and Mike runs online PM courses, and it is a great resource for getting those fundamentals of project management trained, reasonably priced, and Mike presents it in an accessible and clear manner. You can check out some of his videos on his YouTube channel and kind of give you a view of where they are. But the code for that, if you go to nigelcreaser.com/online PM courses, all one word, lowercase, that'll redirect you to it. There's very different levels that you can buy. You can buy individual courses, you can buy pathways as well, if you like. And I get a kickback off those. Mike kindly shares me that. So if you do jump on and use it, I hope you find it really useful. I think he has money back guarantees and things like that as well. So there's very limited risk on that. So jump on that, and that again, it's nigelcreaser.com/online PM courses. And enjoy.
Right. Did you ever read the book, The Myth of Multitasking?
That one, but multitasking for me is both a boon and a nightmare. So listening to stuff while doing stuff, you know what I mean? Listening to podcasts, driving and things like that. I think there are certain things you can do. Fundamentally, as you say, the myth of what you're doing is multiple things badly or multiple things not as well as you could.
Right. Absolutely. No question.
Yeah.
So this book talks about how when you think you're multitasking, you're totally not.
No.
It's a misnomer, the word itself.
Yeah.
But, you know, the more you try to think you're multitasking, the less productive you are.
Yeah. You're context switching all the time, aren't you?
Exactly.
I was writing the section on sort of focus and stuff in my book and interruptions and trying to do multiple things at once. And the day I was writing it, I put it in there, I was watching my one daughter trying to make a cup of coffee while watching a video on her phone, while doing something else. And she was trying to do a lot of things, and she was doing all of them really badly at the same time. And it was it's one of those ones you sit there and go, yeah, I can see that. But it's difficult. We get in the habit. Like you say, people tell you can get stuff done. And we've got all these tools. We've got our mobile phones, which allow us to do those multitasking items on there. I've got 3 screens here, which I'm usually working with. I know Terry Pratchett, incredible writer, 6 screens he used to have years ago in front of him. Now, actually, you're right. It's that multitasking doesn't work.
Right.
It's how you get out of it, and then that focus can. And there's nothing wrong with it. there's nothing wrong with doing more than one thing together, as long as you accept that that's not necessarily the most
Right.
productive way to do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I'll accept that. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
accept if I'm watching the TV and I'm checking something on the phone. I know that if I'm looking up who the actor is on IMDb, I may not see and may not spot what's happened in the next bit of the show.
You mean
But I
I'm not
accept
the only one that does that?
who the hell? What has he been in? Where do I know him from? You know what I mean? It's all that.
Like the guy from The Gentleman, the brother from The Gentleman we were talking about before we started the podcast. I go, I know that guy.
Well, that's it. Yeah, it is, and but that's what it's for. At the end of the day, it's for. You know what I mean? Whereas normally you'd have sat there for weeks racking your brain, and then sat in a pub chatting to someone else 2 days later, you'd have remembered it, wouldn't you?
Right,
So,
right. Amazon Prime has this thing, I don't know if it still does, where you could push a button and it shows you about the actors that are on the screen.
Yeah. But then the problem I found with that is sometimes what it does, it pops it up and it someone who isn't in the scene, who's a surprise.
Right.
You see their name there and you go, well, where are they? And then, the surprise. Yeah. It's kind of, it spoils it. But that kind of stuff. So just thinking about where you've, as we sort of talked about, you were there with your dad and you were running, I'm guessing you kind of walked in, took over that kind of business and run that kind of business as you got older.
Well, it was interesting. That was my thought, that I was always going to take over my dad's business. But when I was about 20, he broke up with his partner. And they went back and forth as to who was going to take the business. And finally, he just threw his hands up. He said, okay, you take it.
Oh, right.
And the guy within 2-3 years ran it into the ground. Okay. Well, my dad went on his way and did some other stuff. And a few years later, he put me into business with an older gentleman in the same business. But, it was okay. And that was one of the many businesses I had over the next 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And then, I had successes. I had failures along the way. And then in 2008, when the financial crisis came, it wiped me out.
All right.
It wiped me out. And it took me about a year to get out from under the financial burden and the emotional and mental burden that it put on me to lose everything. And I finally said to myself, you know what? I don't love being a businessman. I never really loved the highs and lows that come along with that. So I said, I have a chance now to reinvent myself. What do I want to do? Because I'm at the bottom. I have nowhere to go but up. If I'm going down, I'm going underground.
Not bad.
6 feet under, So better to go up than 6 feet under. And I thought about it and I decided that the thing I always loved doing was getting involved in community organizations. I was always a leader. And as a leader, people would come into the organization and say, but, I can't do what you're doing. I'm like, but I don't want you to do what I'm doing. I need you to do what you're good at. Yeah. So let's figure out what that is. And I realized I was coaching them. For 20 years, I was coaching people. And they would come and they would give their best potential. I was like, maybe that's what I should do. So I decided to become a life coach. And show the people that they already know what they want to do. They just need to act on it.
Yeah. It's interesting because the phrase life coach immediately draws up certain imagery.
Yeah.
And I imagine that the industry is quite a difficult industry differentiate you from the potential charlatans that are around.
100%. No question about it.
I mean,
but it's funny. When I first decided to get into life coaching, this was like 2010, 2011. Yeah. And I said, somebody, I'm going to become a life coach. And they said, for what team? Because they're thinking of me being a coach.
Yeah, I get it. And it is, and there's depending on your background, and definitely over here in the UK, there'll be a definite different openness to it over in the US. I imagine on the I'm guessing, and this could be generalization. Tell me if I'm wrong. Imagine the West Coast Americans are a lot more open to it than East Coast Americans.
I think you're right. Because they're much more pragmatist on the East Coast. They're very woo-woo on the West Coast.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of get past the BS and all that, I did, I just get to, for some reason, Meet the Fockers is popping into my head, and well, I know it's not, I know she isn't a life coach. It's the second one where it's
Right.
Meet the.
I knew what you meant.
Another one, I mean. What's her name? Oh,
I don't
anyway,
remember.
I can't remember the actress's name. She's amazing in the coach. She's kind of a life coach, and her husband's kind of a life coach as well. And
Right.
you
Right.
kind of
I can't remember the name, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Bob Streisand, isn't it? No.
Oh yeah, Barbara Streisand. Yeah, with she plays Robert De Niro's wife. The other one, the other side.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I've forgotten his name.
So long.
Yeah, it'll all pop in.
And right now, the audience is laughing at us, saying, "You can't remember the people's names."
Yeah, and most people are saying, "Just look on IMDb." You were talking about it a minute ago, you fool. No,
but we're too busy talking to each other. We want to focus. We're not going to multitask here.
Yeah, it's Dustin Hoffman. Dustin Hoffman is the name.
Dustin Hoffman, right?
Yeah. So yeah. Look, I've taken a mick out of the life coach word and things like that. But what is it? Describe what you do when someone comes to you and they've worked out they need someone to coach them. I know there's general coaching, things like that.
Right.
Business coaching, individual coach, sports coaching.
It could be down to the slightest niche that people can do. But before I explain to you, let me give you an overview of what coaching is in general, as opposed to therapy. Right? Because people say, what's the difference between therapy and coaching? And to be honest, there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
I learned this in coaching school, and I use it till this day. Therapy takes you from dysfunctional to functional. Coaching takes you from functional to optimal. Right? So I've had people come to me who want me to coach them, and after a few conversations or even sessions with them, I'm like, you're not ready for me. I can't give you what you need. You need therapy. Yeah.
And
I'm not a therapist.
Yeah.
So coaches, in a general term, coaches are good at asking the questions for the client to figure out what they want. They ask them leading questions to get them to figure out the answers that they already know, but for whatever reason is buried in there and they can't get it out. Okay? So that's a general term. Now, for me, what do I do? Right now, I put together a program where I help coaches get out of their own way so that they can put together a 7-figure coaching business guaranteed within 2 years. Because if they follow my system and follow what they do, what I tell them to do, they'll get there. And how do I put it even better? I've been in so many of these coaching programs over the last 10, 12 years where they go, you get in and you do it and you'll make all this money and you pay everything up front. And they go, it's a done for you, a done with you program. But at the end of the day, I found them to be a done to you programs because they took my money. They said they were going to help me. And then for whatever reason, it didn't happen. So I decided to build one where it's a risk reversal strategy. I tell them, you pay me 12.5% up front. Then you don't pay me again until you start making money because I'm coaching you not on information. I'm coaching you on results.
Code kind of thing that you talk about.
Exactly. And the life for anybody out there, about 10 years ago, I took the word life and turned it into an acronym for live incredibly full every day. And what I'm talking about there is having a happy life, but also a meaningful life. Because you could be happy with no meaning, and you could have a meaningful life with no happiness. So happiness is self-love, self-care, even selfish. Meaningful is selfless. What are you doing for others, for the world, for whatever? So when you live incredibly full every day, you're waking up every morning and saying, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to appreciate what's going on around me. I'm going to literally write down 3 things I'm happy about that I'm grateful for today. I'm going to walk out with a mindset of everything's going to be great. I'm going to live incredibly full every day. I'm going to look for opportunities. I'm not going to even see the problems that might come my way. And that's what I coach them on, is changing that mindset.
Yeah. It's interesting, kind of the life thing kind of resonates with me a little bit towards the ikigai concept. I'm sure you'd have seen that. Is the kind of the that intersection between our it's a Japanese principle of being of happiness. I think is where it comes from, in the idea of doing something that is of value to the community, something that you're good at and you're capable at it, something that you enjoy and are passionate about.
Your God-given gift.
Yeah, and something you can get paid for.
Right, exactly.
And kind of stitching those four things together and finding something in that little sweet spot in the middle.
Right.
And it's really, I have got a diagram of it somewhere. It's a really interesting model because obviously it's done as Venn diagrams, the way it's represented, and each one at each intersection between each one or between three,
right,
there's a descriptor of how you feel and how and what that might mean.
Yeah.
So if you are incredibly good at something and get really paid, and people will pay a lot of money for you doing that, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
It could be the American footballer, yeah,
right,
who doesn't enjoy American football and doesn't see American football as a thing that's contributing to the betterment of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But they're incredibly good at it and they're paid an incredible amount of money for it. But it doesn't mean they'll be happy. And that's the way, and the same with a musical artist, an actor, they could be incredible at it and they could be paid a lot of it. But if it doesn't give you those other two areas as well, you could imagine, and you'll see a lot of people out there who are brilliant, and it's famous people,
right, but
who are famously unhappy. And everyone sits there going, but you've got all that. How could you be? If I had all that, I'd be happy.
Of course, it's easy to say. But you know what? Yeah. And there's the other side of the coin, too. I'll give you a perfect example. I have a woman that's in my program right now. And her focus is to help women coach other women who are going through domestic violence. Okay? And she has a program. And what she wants to do is help teach women her program on helping people get through domestic violence so that they can have a life of harmony. Okay? So she was struggling in the beginning with, how do I get people to understand that it's okay to do that as well as to make money from it? She was putting out something that was meaningful, right? But she was getting in her own way about charging for it. And so were the people that she was getting in there. So I said, it's okay to say that I want to make an impact in the world. And as a result of making an impact, I'm going to make money.
On top of that, if you can make an impact in the world and you can get paid for making that impact in the world, that allows you to make more impact in the world.
Exactly. It's a perpetual cycle.
Yeah. And I know it's a little bit, with that example, there's a kind of a slightly facetious example in some ways, but there's a podcast that I listen to. I love it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's a free podcast, as a lot of our podcasts are. They have a Patreon page. You can pay for Patreon and you get some more content.
Right.
And the point that they always make on it is that when they're pitching for people to do it, saying, well, we've got jobs, right? We get paid. If this Patreon, you're gonna put your energy where we all need to live, we all need money, and you put your energy where the money generates the income. And therefore, if someone's doing that thing and they're doing that coaching in that instance, and they're doing it as a charity, they're not doing that, well, they've still got to feed their family, still got to eat, you've still got to do all those things. So actually that means then they'll be looking at something else in order to supplement that.
Exactly.
And by doing that, that means you haven't got as good time. You're doing the other stuff.
It's diminishing returns.
Yeah, exactly. So I can understand that.
Yeah.
Just thinking because I'm not. The one thing about Riverside is its timing on its clock confuses me quite often, because I'm sure we started nearly an hour ago, but it's telling me we've only done half an hour.
It's saying to me about 52 minutes.
Yeah, so mine's saying 31, so that's a bit weird. But then
Wow.
again, yeah, I think it's a bit weird. So,
But it feels like 31.
you said that you've got a book out.
I do.
I've had a book at it, and I thought, do you want to just chat to us about that? What's in there? What's that? How's that different to the Life Code and etc.?
Sure, absolutely. So what I did was during COVID, when the world was on lockdown, right? And we thought it was going to be only 2-3 weeks. They said, "Oh, in 2-3 weeks from now, everybody will be out." By the way, Nigel, every day I figured out how to get out of the house. Yeah. I'd put on the mask. I'd wear the gloves. I'd go shopping. My wife came home and was working upstairs, and the kids were working in different rooms in the house. And I was like, I got to get out of here. The ADHD in me was acting up, and I got out almost every day. And then about 2-3 months into it was May, and I turned to my wife and I said, it's a pretty decent day. Let's go to Manhattan. Let's go to the city. In Brooklyn, we call Manhattan the city. And we said, let's just go see what's happening there. So we went, and I'm sure the traffic where you are is crazy, but in New York, it's 10 times worse usually. And to go drive down Fifth Avenue could take you a long time. Well, that day, it was a Sunday. I was able to drive straight down Fifth Avenue without missing a traffic light. That's how empty the streets were.
Wow.
And I looked around and I'm like, where is everybody? Even though you're on the semi-lockdown, you can still go out, put your gloves on, put your mask on, stay 6 feet apart or 2 meters or 3 meters, whatever it is, and go out there. Where is everybody? What is everybody so worried about? And then I realized the 10, 12 years before that, losing all my money and having to start all over again. Just as I was going to start doing that, my wife asked for a divorce. And I got through that, and I got through my divorce as I went through coaching. And then I was on a weight crazy. I got too heavy, and I had to fix myself health-wise. And then I started this whole life thing and understood that it was all in my control.
Yeah.
And I found a woman who loved me for who I was, and I loved her for who she was. And we got married almost 6 years ago. I turned to her and I said, I'm going to go on Facebook and tell people, I get why you're worried. And I've just come through 10, 12 years of what could be hell, but I came out the other side stronger. So let me show you how to be from a warrior to a warrior. Right? And that's the name of the book, Warrior to Warrior. Right? So now I'm in lockdown. I'm saying, I got to put what I've been coaching my people over the last 8-10 years down on paper and make it into good stuff. And then I said, let me write the book. Let me make the course and do all that. And when I was writing the book, I said, what I have here is good, but they have to understand that it's coming, a lot of it is out of my own experience. So not only am I talking the talk, but I'm walking the walk. I'm showing them that they're not alone, that by understanding that there's other people like them who are struggling. And I've come up with ways of helping. A lot of the coaches out there, they do the woo-woo, but there's no practical steps on how to do it. I said, that's where I have to bridge the gap. Show them I get their understanding the woo-woo part, but give them the practical steps to change it. Like I talked about admission, cleansing, and celebration, the cycle of A's, and things like that. And that's what the book is.
All right, brilliant. Superb. It's when you've got the ability to do that, because I think the great thing is you can, some people communicate and some people take those things as a written version so much better than they can on even an audio. And people have different communication styles, so making it available. And again, I'm guessing that from your point of view, you've found that you've got that passion and you'll get the joy from seeing people move through those coaching
and get levels. That aha moment.
Yeah, and see them fly and be the best they can be. Yep. That satisfaction, again, is great.
Nothing like it.
But it's nice to be able to. There are people out there that you can't reach. There are people out there who will never get around to reaching out and doing it, but they may pick up the book, and you'll be able to. There'll be people you'll be able to help that you don't know, that you don't know who they are.
No, I don't. I hope that whoever does pick up this book that I don't know gets something good out of it and moves forward. And when somebody read the book, somebody reads it, they said, "Boy, you get very, very vulnerable in the book." I go, "Of course I do." Because if I'm not being my true, authentic self to the people that are reading this book, why are they reading the book?
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah.
It's interesting when you said about the lockdown stuff with the differences. I live in a really rural area, so it's like 10 minutes, I'm down to a very nice picturesque canal. And the biggest thing we noticed was not the traffic wasn't about. It's quite a busy road near us, but not that bad. The traffic moves; it doesn't sit and move slowly.
Right.
The thing we noticed,
Lucky you.
yeah, the thing that we noticed the most was how much more volume there was from the birds. It was crazy how loud the birds were because they weren't competing with the sound of the traffic.
Yeah, it's crazy. The little things that happen that you never realized before.
Yeah, and I'd sit there in the garden sometimes and I'd miss it now because
Yeah.
I really found that when we had some really nice weather and sit there and just that cacophony of bird song. And whilst it was a hard and tough time, there were things in there, that lack of the air pollution was better and all those sort of things was astounding. And
Yeah.
so, as I said, we're coming up on the hour now, and if people want to find out more about, well, actually, before I say that, was there anything you wanted to chat about, and other than Wrexham, because we'll be here for another 4 hours.
Well, if we've got an hour, we could talk about Wrexham.
Yeah. But hopefully by the time this goes out, as we were saying, it'll go out.
They'll have been promoted to League One.
Yeah, exactly. And fingers crossed.
And if they haven't, we're in a very sad state of the world.
Isn't it? Anyway, by that time. If it was there anything you wanted to chat about or mention as we were talking? And if there isn't, if people want to get hold of you, find out more about Worrier's life, etc., where do they get hold of you? What?
Okay, so first I'll answer the first question, and then I'll tell you that part. So I think the number one thing I want to get out there is that wake up every day and be grateful for something. I have these books like a moleskin book like this, a nice piece of a quality book. And every morning I write 3 things. Not on this one. This is a new one that somebody just gave me. I write 3 things I'm grateful for. Here you go. Every morning I write 3 things I'm grateful for. It could be I'm so grateful that the sun is shining today. It could be I'm so grateful it's raining. Whatever. Be grateful for 3 things. Now you get out of bed and you say, today I'm going to live incredibly full every day, or you come up with a mantra that's good for you. And then what I want you to do is go out there and make somebody laugh. And when they laugh, thank them for helping you fill your quota to make one person laugh. Now what you did is, every day we make somebody laugh. You go to the supermarket, you talk to the cashier, you make her laugh, and you go on. She forgot about it, you forgot about it. But now imagine if you say to her, thank you for filling my quota to make somebody laugh today. You've just made a connection with that person. And they're thinking, that's interesting. And then say, you know what? Pass it on and make somebody else laugh and thank them for it.
Life would be,
wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be. It would be great.
Just pay it forward. So now, how do you find me? I've made it very simple. Connectwithmartin.com.
Yeah.
Can't get more simple than that.
No, that's very true. So connectwithmartin.com. I'll stick it in the show notes and stuff like that. As long as I remember to do it, I probably will.
Right.
And if I don't, you can shout at me, but people will be able to get hold of you. All I've got to say, Martin, is thank you for being such an amazingly enthusiastic and knowledgeable guest on the show. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed the chat, and go Wrexham.
Go Wrexham, baby. Go Red.
Look after yourself.
Yeah, it's still saying live recording.
Yeah. So this is my final wrap up. Every week you're going to hear this. You're going to get bored of it, but you can always click next podcast if so. If you have enjoyed it, if you listened to this podcast to the end of this show and you think that was great, I'd love to be able to help Nigel out. There are loads of ways you can do it. The first and obvious way is to share the podcast. Send it out to people. If you know colleagues and friends who'd benefit from it, you think they'd enjoy it, just send them the link. grab one of the links, or send them to www.nigelcreaser.com/podcasts. That's www.nigelcreaser.com/podcasts, and that will push them over to a Linktree link, and it's got all of the different ways they can consume the podcast. If you are feeling generous and have a big bag of cash, you could grab a copy of one of my books. Obviously, they're available in all the usual places, in print and digital. Again, jump on the website, www.nigelcreaser.com/shop, and that will give you a list of all the different ways that you can contribute and grab copies of the book. Also got links to all my guests' books on there as well, where I get a little bit of a kickback from them. If you are of a sporting mind, I have a number through doing some of my judo and running antics. I've managed to secure a few affiliate links and affiliates there as well. So in there, somewhere in the sponsors page, there's links to those as well. So clicking onto those and grabbing if you're looking to get super fit, then that would be fabulous as well, and I get a little kickback from those. I have a Patreon account. It's patreon.com/sundaylunchpm. So again, you can ping something in there, buy me a coffee or whatever. And finally, obviously the most important is coming back, listen again, because the more of you that come back, the more visibility I get, because there's more times that it's downloaded and all the SEO works and things like that. So yeah, that's it. So if you can help me out, I would be much appreciated. If you can't, don't worry about it. Thank you very much. Cheers now. Bye. Another great sponsor of the show comes in the form of Air Manual. Air Manual is it's a tool for documenting process, which and best practices. It's a company formed by one of my interviewees, Alexis Kingsbury. Essentially, and I kind of summarised why my view of where we see documentation, and my experience has been, people will document something, a process, they'll put it in a Visio diagram that gets loaded onto a SharePoint site or something similar, and then a bunch of that. So then once that diagram's been shared with senior management, they're happy they have a process in the business. But then the detailed procedures underneath it might be in Word documents, in just poorly kept and not linked easily and not updated. And what Air Manual does, it allows you to put in it's a tool for doing this kind of thing. You whack it in, the service in there, get in there, put in your process, your flow, and you build it down to as low a level of detail, even to the point of checklists where people can check off they've done it. So it creates that guided checklists, easy to create, easy to maintain, and all in one place. And no one's kind of rooting around to find the SharePoint, and then when you change to new SharePoint services and all that stuff, it's all there. So if you pop along to nigelcreaser.com/airmanual, there's a bit more detail there and a link there to click on to go and get. I think they offer a trial and things like that. So it's something that I think can easily reduce the amount of errors, rework, etc. within our organisations. So take a look. My latest, the latest affiliate that I've got on the show now is Riverside. I use Riverside to do my interviews, Riverside FM. It kind of offers you a whole, if you like, micro studio management producer tooling, and goes beyond that. Has a really good free layer, and I've been using it for a while now. I find it really good. When I've had issues, even though I'm not on one of the higher paid levels, the support has been quick, responsive, and of high quality, and people keen to help me. The organisation is really good. The product seems really intuitive. and quality is really good as well. And it's a clever way of doing it is when you're recording through your browsers, so you've not got loads of desktop resources being used compared to some other products that I've used. And what they also do is they stream a lower quality version of it up onto as you're doing the interview, so you're not burning bandwidth while you're doing the interview and potentially impacting on the quality of the conversation. And then at the end, it uploads it, the higher quality from your browser. It's just a really good way of doing it. So if you are thinking of doing a podcast and you're doing a podcast, I would recommend using this tool. I found it really good. Best of the tools that I've tried using to date. And you can get that at nigelcreaser.com/riverside, and that will redirect you to my kickback page on their site, and there I will get a little kickback from them. So take a look. Thanks. Well, it's goodbye from me, Nigel Creaser, and it's goodbye from him, the Sunday Lunch PM. Goodbye.